This is Shooting USA, honored as the best of outdoor television by the National Shooting Sports Foundation.
In most every handgun competition we cover, the idea for the sport has come from training. Practical shooting came from combat training, IDPA from training for concealed carry. And this time, it's the Louisville Police Department that's designed a match just for law enforcement officers, that's based on situations they might encounter on the street, and requires using their uniform street equipment known as duty gear. It's called the annual Top Gun match.
Stand by.
It's a training tool for the Louisville Metro Police Athletic Club, and it features officers from all jurisdictions from the surrounding states.
About 4 or 5 years ago, the Sports Association had been sponsoring a couple of us to shoot Bianchi, PPC, things like that. And they said, well, one day we want to hold a pistol match. And we never thought it would come to that point. 4 years ago, they said it's time. So we decided to hold something other than a pistol match. We wanted a training event.
The match is held at the Silver Creek Conservation Club in southern Indiana. On the very first stage, you can see a difference with the USPSA range officers.
Being an RO there, we're a lot stricter than what we should be here with the policemen. And Jack Jawar that's putting on the match asked us to relax a little bit, so we showed him we have a different side to us.
He was afraid I was going to be a little too strict for his police friends. I think he's trying to influence somebody with this. So we've lightened up a little bit, yes.
The USPSA ROs are working a steel challenge stage. Some stages throughout the match are similar to other shooting disciplines, but the common theme here is police training for life-threatening situations.
What we've done is put things like battlefield pickup, loading a weapon, clearing a weapon, using a weapon you might not carry every day. We've got first aid in this situation.
We've got competitions and stages where you actually have to put a bandage on somebody. It gives you more of an opportunity instead of just taking a static line, shoot and make it into something more realistic.
In the stage design, they put officers in everyday situations, like a coffee cup in their strong hand. The officer has to drop the cup as opposed to putting it down, and then draw his weapon to begin, all in an effort to simulate an actual day on duty.
Myself, I'm an administrative person, so I'm inside a lot. So this gets me out, gets me moving. It's like an IPSC run and gun, where I'm getting moving targets, stationary targets. I'm having to get up and move. We shoot both shotgun and pistol. So it gets the dust off and sort of get your head back in the game tactically of what I need to do to get home at the end of the night.
The stages are challenging for a lieutenant behind the desk, or a patrol officer who works streets, and even more so when using a firearm they don't use that often.
Unfortunately, shotguns are kind of getting outdated. Everybody's going to ARs now. So we don't train, a lot of departments don't train a lot with shotguns, so this just kind of brings home bringing shotguns more into your training.
So it's the challenges of police work meeting on the range, and it's where camaraderie meets competition. A match for guys that ride the beat together, competing and having fun, while practicing the skills that help save lives.
I think overall it's a good thing to have that good, healthy competition, and I know the guys really enjoy it.
Oh, it's perfect, yeah. It's good stuff, gets the heart rate up, adrenaline flowing, puts you in about as close to real life type situation. So yeah, it's real good, real nice.
After the break, we'll ride along to see some real-life situations on the streets of Louisville with one of the officers shooting in the Top Gun match.
This is Shooting USA, reporting the stories from America's shooting scene.
Most police officers go through their entire career without firing a shot on the street. Even so, the officers in the Louisville police match are very clear about the value of the firearms training they get from competition. The officer you're about to meet believes realistic competition can help be sure he'll go home to his family at the end of his shift. At first look, you might think Ed Parsons is just another up-and-coming competitor in just another shooting competition. And judging by his performance with a semi-auto, you would be at least partly right.
Good time, I didn't fumble a mag change, it stuck to the plan, so everything went good.
But Ed, the competitor, is just the start of this story.
On two, I got Chuck Cooper, Brother Parsons, and Chad.
Roll call at Division II of the Louisville Metro Police Department, where shooter Ed Parsons goes by the title Officer.
Lieutenant Manning wants us to ride by there once every couple days. And
Ed is a patrolman, a street cop in a city known for the Ohio River, Louisville Slugger baseball bats, and the world's most famous horse race, the Kentucky Derby.
232 Baker Radio.
232 Baker.
Ed works the streets of a neighborhood in the northwest part of the city.
We spend 90% of our time on 10% of the population. The majority of the people here are normal, hardworking people, but you have that small population that we just devote almost all of our time to. We got a break-in in progress.
And that is a call on one of those people in that 10%.
Someone beat on the front door and then climbed on the roof, broke in a window and is now inside the house.
Ed speeds up to get to the break-in, but even before he arrives at the scene, he learns it's a false alarm.
Not all of those are actual break-in in progresses. A lot of them are false alarms.
For a police officer, that is always the case. Many days are filled with hurry up and wait. Next up, a trouble call. A teenager and her mom are fighting, but Ed and another officer calm everyone down.
Police work, for the most part, is really, a lot of boredom. Is doing the things that we're doing now, riding around, looking for things out of place. I mean, that part of the job itself is not very exciting.
But a few minutes later, things get more exciting. We're heading to a domestic violence call. And a well-known fact, fights between husbands and wives can quickly turn dangerous for the police.
The evidence of violence is already present, so a lot of times it's not very difficult to redirect that aggression towards us.
In tense situations like this, Officer Parsons appreciates the firearm on his hip and the training and experience he gets shooting in competition.
But what takes a lot of the anxiety out, is knowing that you're prepared for the situation that you may encounter.
What they encounter is another fight that is calmed down considerably by the time they get there. So once again, his .40 caliber service pistol stays where it is 99% of the time, in the holster.
The reality of it is, the 1% chance that we need this tool determines whether or not we go home at the end of the night. So our ability to utilize this tool under stress is extremely important.
And no sooner than he wraps up the domestic violence call, Ed and his fellow officer are off again, chasing a silver pickup truck.
And registered owner of that vehicle has a warrant.
Once again, there is potential for danger. Ed searches and then questions the suspect.
So you don't have an ID on you, man?
No, I live right here.
This house right here on the corner?
Then he crosses the street to inspect the pickup.
Hurry, get down the road, huh?
Yeah. Somebody once told me that the job of police work, you don't get paid for what you do, you get paid for what you're willing to do.
Like breaking up a domestic dispute or confronting a suspect who may be armed. Ed considers shooting matches with his service firearms an important part of his training. Competition that puts him in a tactical mindset and prepares him for the day he may have to use his weapon on the street.
So, you know, if you're out in the street and you're put into a situation, for me, it's easier to look at that situation like it would be a stage at a match. You know, where people are, where hard cover is, where I need to do a reload. You look for those things that you, in the event that it goes bad, you may have to capitalize it.
You know, we've heard that same explanation before. Competition to combat. The same as the philosophy of the Army Marksmanship Unit. Well, still to come, defining what is duty gear for the department's shooting in the match.
This is Shooting USA, with news and information for America's gun owners.
This is a state-of-the-art duty gear rig from Safariland, the most common supplier to law enforcement. Gear pouches and a level 3 retention holster with triple locks to keep a bad guy from grabbing the officer's gun. I'm not going to tell you how to make the draw, but I will tell you practice is important for officers wearing this kind of high security rig. We've got Jay Gilmore ready to report on the guns and the holsters in the Top Gun match.
The Louisville Police Athletic Club puts on this match once a year. In order for competitors to get something out of this besides competition, there's a catch. They have stages set up where shooters can only use their duty-issued gear. For them, that means a little training. For us, an opportunity to show you what the different departments are using.
Stand by!
Today we're following 3 different agencies: the Louisville Police Department, Cincinnati PD, and the United States Secret Service. We'll start with the host department, Louisville PD.
I'm issued a Glock 22, which is a .40 caliber, the particular holster that I'm using here is it's a 2-stage retention holster. It's made by Blackhawk.
Rich Wilson is a plainclothes detective on the western part of the city. He's shooting with Federal, American Eagle, and Remington ammunition, some of it less expensive than others.
In competition like this, you got to save. Got to save money. But it's a .40 caliber. Most of them are pretty nice rounds. They're all hollow points. You want to try to shoot as close to what you normally shoot.
Of course, his magazines are double stacked, 15 rounds each. On the job, he carries an extra mag on his belt and 2 more as a backup in the car. You heard him mention his Blackhawk holster. It's a level 2 Serpa.
Obviously, the 1 is releasing and 2 is coming out. So if it was just a single stage, it would have no retention whatsoever. So this, you can do what you got to do there. So you got to do 2 more. So you got 1 pull and 2 coming out.
Now, Lieutenant Rob Davis works for the Louisville Police Department as well, but he's one of the few officers who doesn't carry a Glock.
I carry a SIG P226 9mm. I'm one of the older fellows on the police department. In 2003, we merged the Jefferson County Police Department and the Louisville Metro Police Department. Since merger, we've gone strictly to Glock, but the old county officers can still carry the SIG if they choose, or they can do the transition over to the Glock.
And that's exactly what Rob Davis chooses. For him, it's rather simple.
A Sig Sauer has gotten me home. Next month it'll be every night for 20 years to my family. And if it's got me home that long, then there's no reason to change from it.
Lieutenant Davis uses Federal 9mm with 147 grain bullets. He carries Safariland's level 3 retention holster on the street, the SS3 mid-ride, because of the importance of gun security.
I like the extra retention. Chances are you're going to be in a tussle with somebody. You're going to have somebody try to disarm you more than you're going to be in a quick draw competition. If you're going into a hot run, you're going to have your gun out ahead of time. So I need something that's going to retain that weapon probably more than I need to be a quick draw for everyday duty.
And speaking of speed, you won't find any quick draws here like we see from the pro shooters.
Most police officers, their duty holsters are not geared for competition speed. This is mostly retention and availability.
DJ Carter is a uniformed officer from the Cincinnati Police Department. He has a level 3 retention holster, also from Safariland.
You can see this big piece of plastic here on the front end of the holster. That is there just strictly as a guard to keep people from coming down and hitting these retention devices. But beyond that, there's a thumb lever down here that you have to push down, and then forward, which releases the hood, obviously. And then there's a thumb retention behind the pistol that you have to push on in order to extract the pistol from the holster.
Cincinnati PD issues the Smith & Wesson M&P 9. DJ likes his so much, one wasn't enough.
I actually own 3 personal M&Ps now. Besides my duty one, I own 3 personal M&Ps that I use for competition.
Cincinnati also supplies the Winchester 9mm full metal jacket rounds for practice and competition, 147 grain, and hollow points for duty with the same bullet weight. Now meet Ted Snurr. His agency doesn't let him use his duty gear for competition.
I'm a federal law enforcement agent in Washington, D.C. My agency issues the Sig Sauer P229, which is a very fine shooting instrument. I've carried it on several different agencies I've worked with, and I'm very confident with it.
Ted is a Secret Service agent assigned to the White House. He wears plain clothes, but he too has a retention holster with a thumb brake release to secure his weapon. Since he can't use his duty gear in competition, he's shooting the Springfield Armory XDM, a gun he won at last year's match. He says no matter what different departments are shooting, it all starts with the basics.
The recipe for success when shooting competition or trying to save lives on the street is just the basic fundamentals. Whether it's a semi-automatic rifle in a 3-gun match or a shotgun shooting aerial targets, it all comes back to developing the fundamentals, practice them, make them muscle memory, and then you just get better and better and better.
Out of 80 shooters from a few different departments, the overwhelming choice of duty-issued guns came from Glock. Now, as you can see, the Louisville Police Department is well represented here, and their duty-issued gun is Glock 22.
Thanks, Jay. And I think it's fair to say the guys from the Secret Service did have an advantage over the officers drawing from their level 3 retention holsters.